Welcome to the Made2Homeschool Podcast. My name is Brandon, and my wife and I are the founders of Made2Homeschool. This is part 2 of my conversation with our friend Kaylee, the face of working to homeschool primarily on TikTok and on Instagram. Kaylee's a self-described master of multitasking with 3 little ones by her side. She not only thrives as a homeschooling mom, but also runs a successful hairstyling business at a local salon. And her entrepreneurial skills extend to her side gig as a social media personality, where she shares her journey to inspire others. Join us as we explore Kaylee's journey of balancing multiple roles with humor, determination, and unwavering passion. If you're new to our podcast, the important thing to know is that Made2Homeschool is a community and resource library first and foremost. You can find it at Made2Homeschool.com, where we offer monthly and annual plans for every budget and linked wherever you find these episodes. The purpose of this podcast so far has really been to share unique journeys of interesting people influencing the homeschool space online and, we hope, to bring encouragement and maybe some new wisdom to the folks listening. I had a lot of fun getting to chat with Kaylee, and I think you all will get a lot out of this one. Let's get into it. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us back here for episode 2 of my conversation with Kaylee. Kaylee, we were talking about so many awesome things involving your homeschool journey and what you'd been learning and some of the common misconceptions. We'll come back to some of those hurdles people perceive that may or may not be there. But as you were talking, I was kind of thinking about your social media presence, and you'd said a little bit about how you got into it. Can we go back into that a little bit? You were dropping some pearls of wisdom, knowledge, I don't know the right phrase, in that last episode. And I want to figure out how that translated or came out of your social media presence. What made you say, you know what, I've got to get on there and start telling people things or making funny things? And was it humor at first? What was the deal?
I just felt like representation's really important for feeling like you can have a community. If you really want to do something and you feel really alone, we're not meant to be an island. We're very much meant for community. God meant us for community. And inside of the homeschool community, I felt still a little bit of an outsider. And so um whenever I started posting about working in homeschooling and I realized that there were people out there like me, I was like, man, I want to talk more about this. And then it kind of evolved to there's not enough people making jokes about this. Like, there's not enough people making light about this. There's no comedy for us. There's no people talking about the hard things. There were people talking about horrifying things from their bad experiences, or there were people talking about the best things ever. This is the shining rainbow.
Rose-colored glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's a place in the middle and nobody's talking about it where we can make light of the things that are going on in homeschooling, where we can joke around, we can find camaraderie, joking around about common experiences. That was really not that present online back when I was like making videos about it. And that's just where I started. And I have shared as people have asked. And I didn't mean to become like someone people were coming to for information. But then I realized I knew the information. They were like, so where would I go for blah, 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 blah? And I'd be like, okay, well, this is where. Let me tell you, I just went on there. I was one step ahead of them. I wasn't some expert. I was just a mom that just knew a little bit more than they did, so that I could help lead them to wherever it was that they were going to go within the realm of like homeschooling.
And so you started, and it wasn't meant to be an advice thing. It wasn't meant to be, I know the things because you didn't know the things. But I love what you just said too, because I think everybody has something to help others with, right? Because there's always somebody who's one step behind you. And I love the way you put that. But you started out kind of with humor. When I found you, most everything I saw was Brigitte and I haven't been on TikTok for a while. I see you on Instagram now, but I'm just not a TikTok guy right now. But I remember I would show my wife stuff, and this was 2021. So maybe it was soon after you started. Okay. And lots of funny stuff. Super fun. You did a lot of lives, I remember.
Oh yeah, loved my lives back then. It was different then.
Okay, so it's not something you do a lot now anymore, right?
I don't really do I will be honest, I don't have a lot of time for lives because I got that baby running around.
The babies do things, yes. Yeah. So you we're on TikTok, you're making funny stuff. When, I'm going to guess, you tell me if I'm wrong. I remember when you started posting people's comments, and you were very upfront about it. You're like, "Hey, this is a comment I got, and here's the answer to that." And
Yeah.
I perceived a little bit of not anger, but like frustration. Like, guys, this is simple. Like,
Yeah.
you were surprised at some of the comments. Is that kind of what led you into giving a bit more advice?
Yes, because I didn't realize that there was like obviously everybody's going to have some misconceptions about things they don't know about,
Sure.
right? I didn't realize that people's opinions that were once again pretty unfounded, factually very unfounded, would be so volatile and be so aggressive to the point of like, you're a terrible parent. Why would you do this to your child? You can't do this, this, and this. And I would come out and be like, well, actually, yes, I can. And this is how I do it. And this is how we do this. And this is how we do that. And I realized once again, it came to a representation thing. The only representation that you could see of homeschoolers very often in media is negative. And it was so like eye-opening to me that so many people had this perception of what it looks like to homeschool, and also added in, oh, well, you can't work in homeschool. But I am. What do you mean? Lots of people do it. Over 500,000 people do it in the United States. And that's from 2018. So who knows what that number is now? But it was those misconceptions that drove me to want to be like, I'm very much a justice kind of girly. I want people to know what's true. Okay. And so if I see something out there, I'm also a little bit delusional. So I'm like, I can change everybody in the world's mind with my videos, my pithy videos. And so I did that. Yeah.
I don't know.
And so
By the power of the Holy Spirit, 12 guys did a whole lot of changing of the world. So, like,
listen, I would hate to compare myself to a disciple in any kind of way, but I mean, I do feel like I was like, you know what? I can make some change. I'll change this
yeah.
person's mind.
Yeah, and you never know the change that will happen, um, just from the people you come back to influence,
Right.
that you never know you influence.
Absolutely.
There was a guy who I, in large part, credit with my conversion to Christianity in my early 20s, who
Yeah.
spent like 3 hours. I was working at Circuit City. This was like 2005 or 2006, and spent like 3 hours with me as a customer, like just talking to me about Jesus and dancing around my arguments. And he was kind and
Yeah.
strong and encouraging. I don't know his name other than John.
Hmm.
I've never seen that man again. But if God hadn't put them in that place to talk to that random kid at Circuit
Right.
City, and then I've been part of a lot of people's stories over the years because of John.
Yeah. That is one of the main things that I think propelled me forward because it's not all fun and games being on social media, to be fair.
Oh,
It there's a lot of it that's like really not fun at all. But I would get private messages from people and they would say, thank you so much. Like your encouragement, like your videos. I've never met these people. I've never even talked to them outside of this one direct message saying that you're the reason why we're homeschooling. Thank you so much for your encouragement. We never could have done it without you. Those were the kind of things that I'm like, oh, I'm actually making a difference in someone's life and not just defending what we're doing or joking around, but it's somewhere in between. Enough of the encouragement that I had shared in between was enough for them to feel like, I can do this. This girl's doing it. I can do this. And that made me feel like, okay, God, all right, so you have plans for me here. All right, I'll keep doing that. I'll keep doing that as long as I feel like that's what I'm supposed to be doing. And you just tell me when to stop. So,
so I want to ask you, Kaylee, you mentioned some of the negative stuff. I really want to go into how you went more in the giving counsel, advice direction. But I think that the internet is just such a toxic place.
mm,
And especially homeschool world. Now that sounds funny, but I know you've seen it.
yes.
And what's frustrating to me, and a lot of the impetus behind Made to Homeschool, was the negativity toward other homeschoolers I'd see.
Mhm.
I want to ask
Like
you,
within the homeschooling community, you mean?
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
like, oh, you're that type of homeschooler.
Well, we've talked about this before. You and I have talked about
We
this
have, but
before.
the people don't know what we talked about, okay, Kaylee? So wait, I want to ask you, but I got to go to a quick break and we'll be right back.
Okay.
We'll talk about it then.
Are you stressed about whether you've done enough to help your child get into their dream school? The ACT is going digital. The SAT is already digital. I have parents ask me all the time, hey, is this adaptive test? Is it question adaptive? Are they going to, the exam going to be getting harder and harder and harder on each question? And the answer is no, it's actually section adaptive. Depending on how well they do in module 1, they'll either move on to module 2 easier or module 2 harder. If your child needs to raise their ACT, CLT, or SAT test scores, I'd love to help.
All right, Kaylee, before we took that little break and checked on the babies, you were telling me a little bit about the negative side and the positive side of the social media stuff.
Yeah.
What have you figured out is the best way to manage that negativity from people? And not like understandable criticism that's just handled poorly, but like just people just being mean. How do you handle that?
From people outside of homeschooling or people inside of homeschooling?
That's such a good question, Kaylee. I don't know. Tell me whatever you want to tell me.
Because I've definitely got it from both. And I just honestly, you have to take it with a grain of salt because everybody's got an opinion, you know, everyone is going to have an opinion. And most people are very, very feeling very some kind of way about their opinion. It's kind of my way or the highway. So, I mean, if I've taken negative criticism from someone that I don't respect, I try to do it with as much grace as possible. I try to be like, you know, this is the truth. These are the facts. So you're pretty mistaken in your opinion, but you're welcome to it. And I move on with my day. Now, there was a time when I first got online and I was sharing that I felt very much like, well, I've got to defend homeschooling's honor. I don't feel that way anymore. I'm more of the mind of, I'm just going to sit back and let my results speak for themselves because eventually I know that I'm doing what's right. I know that it will produce the results. I'm trusting the process. I'm trusting God with the process. So I know it's going to turn out just the way it's supposed to. So, but within the homeschooling community is another story.
Yeah, this is a big thing. Like,
I usually just hit that with humor because, and people don't love it. I have gotten probably the most negative responses from other homeschoolers from whenever I have touched on a subject with humor that is maybe a little bit controversial. You know, people who believe in different methodologies, I've poked fun at, and it's funny because I'm usually poking fun at myself because, like I said, have been very eclectic. We've tried many different methodologies over time, trying to find what works for us. So each one of these like little jokey videos that I make, I am joking about myself. I am making fun of myself, and many people do relate to that because they're like, oh, I've totally been there. I've been that mom that's like, you can't read twaddle. Those books are going to rot your brain. But then again, I've also been the mom that was like, when I got to the point where I really wanted my kid to read and she wasn't reading and she wanted to read graphic novels, but that graphic novel was the Odyssey. I was like, you know what? It's not that bad. It's really not that bad.
Reading.
I'm happy to see you reading.
It's reading.
So you live and you learn. And some people never get out of that mentality of feeling like whatever it is that they chose is the right way. They can't see the humor in it. They feel some kind of way about it. But you got to be strong in whatever it is that you've chosen to do.
You've had some drama with the hardcore Charlotte Mason moms, have you?
Oh, yes.
Did you tell them that Charlotte Mason never had... What's that?
I said it's so funny because I was them. So I'm like, it's me. You're yelling at me. I'm the one that I was joking about.
You haven't told them that Charlotte Mason never had any kids, did you?
I haven't, but you know that also Charlotte Mason's methodology was also meant for governesses.
Yeah.
And many people don't know that. Listen, Charlotte Mason, I have recently become aware of lots of interesting information about her. One of my friends started a Charlotte Mason co-op, and she's done like a deep dive about her. And my goodness. And the things that I have learned This is in the chair, of course, at the salon.
I'm
I get on
gonna ask you offline here about some of these things, and I want to be clear to anybody listening here. There is no negativity from either of us, and I know this from
No.
talking to Kaylee towards Charlotte Mason's
No,
methodology at
we
all.
love them. I'm a hardcore love living books. Like we live for a living book. I love the database that's online for them. I explain to them all the time. But there's funny things that, when you get too hardcore about something, it becomes almost, well, especially if you're a Christian, I think it can become an idolatry because you're identifying yourself more as whatever it is than you are as I'm a Christian, I'm a parent. It becomes your whole identity. And you've got to make fun of those things. You've got to get to the humor part of it because it loosens you up. It makes you realize, oh man, you know what? That is a little silly, isn't it?
It's kind of
Or
like
it doesn't.
there's an old church joke about a small town that has like a Baptist church and a Nazarene church, and the churches had such small populations they decided to merge, and half the people wouldn't go to church anymore because they said, and they just renamed it the Christian church of the town,
Yeah.
and they're like, I'm not a Christian, I'm a Baptist. Like,
Yeah.
wait a
Yeah.
minute. So, well, this is a
Yes.
lot of why we started Made to Homeschool, because we saw this in the homeschool world. And it's funny when I talk to new people that don't know about it, especially
Yeah.
creators and stuff. I'll go, we saw a lot of division. Like, what do you mean division? And I'll say basically that. And they'll go, oh, well, yeah, there's that. Yeah, there's that. And
Yeah.
it's like, no, y'all, we can all play in the same sandbox, but you have to be able to laugh at yourself.
Yeah, it's across all things
Yeah.
though. There is no community that you're gonna get into that doesn't have its own, what is the word that I'm looking for? There is just a way that you are that everybody has to identify with something. They have to find something that says, okay, well, this is the kind of person I am, right? And it's in every community.
Yeah.
There's certain, if you're in churches, that's like, I think for you and I, because we were raised in church and we're in the church and you understand those little like
The weird things we do.
Yeah, you understand it because you're just living it. And so when you're in the homeschool community, you're like, wow, I really see that for what it is. I can see that this is kind of an issue and it's exclusive and it's whatever, and it can push people away. And so, like, if we just poke fun of this a little bit, maybe we can start a conversation and
so
learn something.
The rednecks need Jeff Foxworthy, and that's my people, by the way. I can say that. And the homeschool, and the Christians need John B. Christ, right?
Oh, so funny.
And the homeschool moms need you and Really Very Crunchy, right? Like,
oh, I love her.
She's hilarious.
Way funnier than me.
Love
She's
it.
way funnier than me.
Excellent content creation. That's not a compliment
Yes.
on you. Anyway, but okay, I want to ask you a few rapid fire things if I can, because I know our time's limited. One, Kaylee, in your homeschool journey so far,
Yeah.
what has been your biggest unexpected hurdle?
Oh, really, truly, the baby has been the most unexpected hurdle. I didn't expect it to be as hard. She's a much different type of kid than my older kid. And so juggling her with the girls has been harder than I anticipated. Right on cue.
I totally get it. Small children, I do get it. I have a 7-month-old waiting to wake up any minute here.
Yeah.
What about the other side of that? And I think I bet I know the answer, but what has been your greatest unexpected blessing on the homeschool journey so far?
Oh, the time. I feel like I can see a really wide difference between my friends' kids that are in the public school at her age and her at her age. So one of my best friend's daughters goes to public school, and obviously they've got a great relationship, but she's already in that, oh, you're so cringe, and oh, my mom's a loser. And I feel like, and I feel like, are you okay? Is she good? No, she's not.
Go ahead, Kaylee. This is going to be edited. You're good. Or not. We can keep it.
So I do feel like our relationship is tight. She doesn't view me in that way. I feel like she views me in a way where she still feels like we're close, and we have things in common, and I'm not some cringe mom, and
Yeah, I just don't. I can't even get around the idea of my son not calling me daddy but dad anymore. So
oh, that's the heartbreaking thing.
that's a heartbreaker. Okay, that's your greatest hurdle and your greatest blessing. Switching gears a little bit, Kaylee. 2 more things. One, what is your greatest homeschool hot take? Unpopular opinion.
Oh no, my hot take. My most hot take would be, um, I'm I would say probably that I'm not a huge fan of radical unschooling. I've talked about this many times. It's not, this is so unpopular. I do have a hard time with unschooling. And I think that there's many people who do it exceptionally well. And I don't think that they once again have enough I don't think they have enough representation so that people can take a picture into what that looks like to do it well. And for that, I think there's a lot of people who use the moniker in a way to not school instead of us. And that is my very unpopular opinion. It's not a great one. But that
You
is
believe
just
it.
how I think. So yeah. I've seen it. And that I think is the hard part for me because I've seen people do it exceptional. And I feel like it's probably the same thing with homeschooling. People could say the same thing about homeschooling as a general topic. They've seen it done so poorly that they have that negative connotation, which we talked about that. I mean, anybody could show you what it means to do it well, right? And anybody could change the way that you think about something when you see it done well. But when you see it done poorly, it makes you second guess it.
And I'm not here to argue with your sister. I'm just
Yeah.
asking your thoughts.
I know.
I just wanted to hear what you thought. Kaylee, for a mom who's listening right now, or dad,
Yes.
and they're like, I want to homeschool my kids. I'm terrified of it. We both have jobs. What do you have to say to them?
I have to say to them that you can absolutely do it. If you want to homeschool, if you feel called to homeschooling, you can make working and homeschooling work if you just make the priority truly, because there are a million ways to do it. And the way I do it is probably not the way you're going to do it. That's one of the reasons why I never tell people, do what I'm doing. I say, this is what I'm doing. Take what you need, take the meat, spit out the bones, do what you need to do to make it work for your family. That should be the way it is for any homeschool journey.
As long as you're not an unschooler.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's
if it works for your family, if your kid's getting what they need, then yeah.
Yeah. Hey, look, in our conference that's coming up that will be out, will have happened by the time this airs. In that conference, we're going to have classical educators and unschoolers speaking in the same conference. So it can be done. Yeah. Kaylee, thank you so much for your time. Where can people find you online?
I am at Working to Homeschool on Instagram and on TikTok.
Awesome. Kaylee, thank you so much. Hopefully we can do it again soon. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thanks.